Conditions May Apply by CinnamonPinecones, read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 188, Out of the Pan and Into the Fire. 10 days passed by faster than they had any right to. This was stupid. He knew this was so incredibly stupid, but he'd be dead already if he wasn't versed in being smart about doing stupid shit. He approached the agreed-upon meeting place with every bit of stealth he had learned in his entire life. The only way someone was going to spot him was with some sort of quirk like that heat vision guy from the support gear debacle last year. Since the moment he set foot outside the apartment, he'd been hyper-aware of his surroundings. No one had followed him. However, he couldn't say the same for Dabi. In an abundance of caution, he made several circles of the building and surrounding area just to make sure no one was lurking before he finally entered. Once inside, he searched the interior perimeter as far as he could without being spotted. After pressing the bounds as much as possible, Izuku sat in the shadows to observe the other man. So far as he could tell, Dabi wasn't posturing as if someone was watching him. He didn't keep looking in any particular direction or give any signs that could be a signal to an outside observer. He was almost satisfied that they were well and truly alone when he heard a faint noise off to the left. There was a rustling sound that could be attributed to a mouse or an alley cat, but Izuku had spent 4 years listening to the sounds that those creatures made, and this rustle sounded like fabric, not fur. He sat for another 10 minutes staring at the space where the sound had come from. He knew that the alcove was big enough to fit an average-sized man. Anyone could be hiding there. But Dabi was becoming restless. He looked like he was liable to leave, and Izuku would never get this chance again. He would never get this golden opportunity to protect his family again. It was stupid. God, did he know it was stupid? But he had to. He didn't have a choice. Hopefully, Dabi would give a tell if he knew they were being watched. What would he be able to do with that tell once he'd exposed himself? Well, he didn't know, but this was all he could do. Without another moment's hesitation, he stepped out of the darkness that he had hidden himself away in. Dabi startled slightly at his silent appearance. If it isn't Uptown's golden boy, I was starting to think you weren't gonna show, he taunted. The man had the same laid-back facade, poorly concealing something volatile, like he always did, making it difficult to tell if he was hiding anything. He'd been hoping for a sign, just that smallest bit of increased anxiety that most people carried when they were lying. Its lack of presence didn't prove anything, though. He could just be a good liar. Or, given that danger sense still hadn't set off any alarm bells, maybe he was completely oblivious to the fact that they weren't alone. I got caught up, he dismissed. I told you to come alone, he pressed. The flash of confusion on Dabi's stiff features looked genuine. He looked around the room subtly, as if searching for whatever Izuku was talking about, but his eyes didn't linger on the spot to the left where he knew someone was creeping. What makes you think I didn't? Dabi asked, tone cool and disinterested. If the way the man's shoulders raised ever so slightly was any indication, Izuku had to assume that Dabi was just as oblivious as he was. Well, even more oblivious, because it seemed that he hadn't known he wasn't alone in the first place. Someone's here, Izuku explained, turning his focus to the alcove and allowing Dabi to track it. Dabi turned to the place he had indicated, allowing Izuku to leave his direct line of sight. A solid display of trust, if nothing else. Come out of there, or we will make you, Izuku threatened with as much authority as he could muster. I assure you the former option is in your best interest, he added when nothing happened. Dabi returned his gaze back to him. Whether he had meant to or not, the other man had offered up the first show of trust. Now it was Izuku's turn. He gestured for Dabi to stay put as he walked forward on silent feet, placing himself between Dabi and the external threat, who at this point could very well be a homeless person then scared shitless. Come out with your hands up and we won't hurt you. You can walk away. Never speak a word about what you've seen to anyone, and we can all live long, happy lives, all right?" He gave another warning, letting his voice, which was much closer now, aid in his subtle threat. "Jeez, Deku, fine. You're such a frickin' creep." An all too familiar voice relented. "Kachan!" he hissed out, half furious and half in disbelief. "Yes, dumbass. What the frick are you doing here?" Katsuki asked as he stepped out from his hiding place. "What the frick am I doing here? What the frick are you doing here, dumbass?" "My dumb ass is here because I knew your dumb ass was stupid enough to follow through with this," Katsuki spat back. "You have got to be frickin' kidding me," Dabi spoke up. Izuku shot an apologetic look over his shoulder before returning to his needlessly hushed conversation. "You are jeopardizing everything. Leave and do not breathe a word of this to anyone," he commanded. "Sure. I'll just let you get murdered by medium rare over here. Then I'll be on my way," Katsuki shot back sarcastically. "You're annoying. Is it a conscious effort or does it come naturally?" Dabi butted into their not-so-private conversation. "Shut up, Hibachi," Katsuki bit back. "You frickin' twerp," Dabi muttered under his breath as he advanced toward them threateningly. "Stop, now, both of you. Jeez. Kachan, go outside, keep lookout, and try not to get spotted this time. If I'm not out in 20 minutes, then you can come back and play rabid guard dog." Izuku stepped between the two of them and put his palms up, signaling for them to stop. "Oi, I was hiding for a half hour with Over Easy, and he had no clue I was here," Katsuki argued, ignoring him completely, like usual. Izuku just glared at him. Thankfully, Katsuki didn't have a snide comeback for that. "Leave and do not contact anyone. You have no clue what is going on here. I have this under control. I'll get others involved when I need to, and now is not the time. Mess this up for me, and whatever blood is spilt will be on your hands." Izuku warned him coldly in the same tone that had gotten him to come out from his hiding place. Katsuki might act like it didn't scare him, but Izuku knew damn well he could be intimidating when he wanted to be. Proof of that point was shown in the way he started to step back toward the exit. "Hold on. How do you know he didn't already rat on us?" Dabi stopped him. "If he did, I wouldn't have been able to leave so easily. They would have had me on house arrest," Izuku answered. "And how do I know that this isn't all a setup?" Dabi pressed. "Regardless of the fact that actual heroes have a sense of morality, it wouldn't be in UA's best interest to dangle their two recently returned kidnappees over the fire again. It was a PR nightmare the first time. They're not keen on repeating it. If we had told anyone, there would be pros here arresting you right now, not two teenagers negotiating." He tried to appeal to Dabi's logical side, if such a thing existed. Dabi looked over both of them critically for a moment, and Izuku silently willed Katsuki to keep his mouth shut while he did. "Fine. Get the frick out of here, Pop Rocks," Dabi relented. "Pop Rocks? I'll pop your frickin' Katsuki out!" Izuku cut him off, pressing his palm against his chest and physically pushing him toward the exit. "Go sit behind the concrete barrier to the left of the bay door and don't go anywhere unless you want to get shot." "Oi, I got here in one piece." "Then go prove it wasn't dumb luck," he challenged. Katsuki sneered at him before stomping off with a dramatic huff. In hindsight, Izuku was kind of impressed that he had managed to stay hidden away quietly enough for Dabi not to notice him for half an hour. Izuku held his hand up, telling Dabi not to speak until he was sure the coast was clear. He gave it a few more seconds, once he heard Katsuki's heavy footfalls fade into the distance. Anxiety settled in his gut as he turned back to Dabi and signaled that it was safe to start talking. This was fine. Nothing was ruined yet. He could salvage this. You have a rat at UA, Dabi announced without fanfare. Brilliant. Principal? I'm pretty sure he's a stoat. He snarked back on instinct. No, you frickin' a-hole, a mole, Dabi shot back. He bit his tongue before he could make another joke about power loader. Truthfully, Izuku had already suspected there was an inside source. It didn't make any sense for them to know where to find the camp, which whittled the suspect pool down substantially to those who had attended and Nedzu himself. He knew Nedzu and Eraser well enough to confidently say that it wasn't them. The Pussycats had lost one of their own, so it was unlikely to be them either. It could have been Vlad King, but Izuku doubted anyone vetted by Nedzu himself could be the culprit, which meant there was only one option left. It's one of the students. He spoke the foregone conclusion aloud. Dabi didn't answer. He just studied him critically, but the silence spoke for itself. What the hell is your deal, anyway? Dabi asked eventually. Huh? He answered inelegantly. You're homeless, living in the slums, and decide to become a vigilante in one of the most dangerous places in Japan at what, 11 years old? Then you go to UA, you somehow plant bugs on the country's #2 for some kid you just met, and now you just practically solved the case Mustafa's best had been working on for 4 months with barely any evidence, Dabi drawled lazily. 12, Izuku corrected. What? I was, 12. It's not important. Yes, you've got the gist of it. Who's the mole? He asked awkwardly, trying to pivot the conversation back. Dabi scoffed at him. Nah, this is fun. You tell me, Sherlock, he goaded. That's 39 suspects, and we're on a time crunch unless you want Bakugo to come back in here and blast both our asses. Exactly. Clock's ticking. Come on. I want to see if you can do it. Dabi cut him off. This was a test of some sort, though he couldn't tell to what end. He supposed it couldn't hurt to try. He chewed at his lip as he thought. Class A had been the one targeted at the USJ. Unless someone from Class B knew their schedule well enough to leak it, then, unfortunately, it seemed most likely to be someone from his class. For his own sanity, he ruled out his immediate friends. Plus, if it was one of them, he would have noticed by now. It wasn't Katsuki either, clearly, because why would they have kidnapped him if it was? Which ruled out Tokoyami, since he was targeted as well. Sue's fear at the USJ seemed too genuine to be faked, so that left 12 more students. Who stuck out from the remaining 12? Either someone sadistic or someone who kept to themselves. Oh. Aoyama? Damn, got it in one. I was going to give you 3 guesses, Dabi replied nonchalantly, a cigarette lit between his lips now. Crap. He'd gotten lost in thought enough that he hadn't even noticed him do that. That was incredibly stupid of him. He bit the inside of his cheek and centered himself. He wasn't going to let his guard down again. He swept his eyes over the room, but he didn't see any changes. You're really going to do it, aren't you? You're going to take Endeavor down with or without me, Dabi mused aloud. Ah, so that's what it had been about. A competency test. Yes, ideally. The guy always gave me a bad vibe anyway. People like him don't deserve a place of power, and kids don't deserve to live in a house like that, he asserted. Dabi didn't say anything to that. He just studied Izuku again. He got the feeling that another test was about to be thrown at him, so he kept quiet and waited patiently. You know, I was going to go on a murder spree, burn a bunch of people to ash, figured it'd be real easy to get away with in a place like this. Dabi gestured around him. Izuku just stared at him blankly for a moment. How the hell was he supposed to respond to that? Why didn't you? Because I asked you nicely? He asked, hoping to turn the mood around after the heavy admission. The man laughed, but it was a hollow sound. Yeah, I guess so. Just needed someone to give me a blankie and talk to me like a person. I'm a real pushover, huh? Dabi sneered. The playful delivery of the jab fell short. The self-loathing was clear to see, and it made Izuku's heart twist. It had been around 10 years since Tuya's death, and he could only imagine what Dabi had been through since then. He hadn't been much older than Izuku was when he was forced out of his home. The two of them weren't so different. I think you were looking for a reason not to. All I did was give it to you, he gently asserted. Whatever. Dabi brushed him off. Izuku tensed as Dabi's hand moved to his pocket and he pulled something out. Relax. Jeez, the man scoffed as he tossed something over. He caught it, but he didn't relax until he saw what it was. It was a small embroidery hoop with a cross-stitch design of a knife surrounded by flowers. He recognized Toga's handiwork. She must have finished it. You're still with them? He questioned. That old guy knocked my lights out, and I woke up with them in some random alley. It's not like I had much of a choice, he defended. So does she know that you're here? He asked warily. No, I stole it, and she hasn't stopped complaining about losing it since. Says she doesn't have the knife for reference anymore, and she can never recreate this in a million years without it. Izuku snorted at the mental image. Toga was young. He'd looked into her background after he'd escaped, and he really hoped they could get her the help she needed. So you guys have a new hideout? He probed, not so subtly. I'm not telling you where we are. We're not much of anywhere anyway, Dabi admitted. You have nowhere to go? He asked, a little surprised by his own genuine concern. Not really, but most of us know how to rough it. We'll be fine. Izuku pursed his lips. He had an idea that might pay off. Their 20 minutes were ticking by, but he still wanted more information. They'd need to meet again. I've got some off-the-grid stuff I don't need anymore. A generator and a fridge. I doubt you need a hot plate, but I've got that too, he offered. Damn, you were staying at the Ritz over here, weren't you? You steal all that crap? I would never. I'm a morally upstanding hero, he joked. No, people like to throw broken stuff away, and I like fixing things, he explained with a shrug. Yeah, I'm starting to get that impression, Dabi drawled back sardonically. Piss off, do you want the stuff or not? I'll think about it. Well, we'd need to set up another meeting, or at least a drop-off. I have a burner number I could give you so you can track us down. So you can contact me. Get your own burner, and I won't be able to do shit. Dabi's hesitance was understandable, but eventually he copied the digits down in his phone. Whether or not Izuku ever heard from him again was out of his hands for now. He still had a plan. So, what do you want to do? He pressed. With the evidence, Shoto, I guess. He knows about it. I told him I wouldn't do anything with it until he gave me the okay, and I'd rather not break that promise. I haven't told him anything yet, but this isn't a frickin' Disney movie. I'm not reuniting with my long-lost brother. Dabi cut him off. What do you want then? What was the plan? He asked cautiously. Just give me the recordings and piss off. I don't have them, he admitted. What? Dabi asked, clearly irritated. Why the hell would I walk in here with everything you wanted from me? You could just kill me and leave. It's insurance. We make a plan together or nothing happens, he insisted, forcing his voice to sound much more confident than he felt. Dabi's eye twitched, and it took effort not to flinch away. He wasn't going to bolt unless danger sense set him off. They were just talking. He wasn't going to get burned. You're a real piece of work, kid, Dabi remarked through gritted teeth. Izuku was starting to get a little restless. Their time was running out. Thanks. I've got heroes breathing down my neck now. I can't keep sneaking out to meet. I'll drop the stuff off here when I can, and you text me when you know what you want to do. Okay? He offered casually, but internally pleaded for the man to just agree. He took one final long drag from his cigarette and ground the butt under his heel as he huffed out the smoke. "Frickin' fine," he spat out. Izuku didn't say anything as the man shouldered past him, cursing under his breath all the while. He took a moment to breathe as he watched the man's form disappear into the darkness. That had gone well, all things considered. He took that thought back when he heard a familiar voice from outside shouting something about a Bacon McCrispy. Damn it, Gonski! He jogged to catch up and separate the two, but Dabi was already gone by the time he got there. "What the hell is going on, Deku?" Katsuki barked at him the moment he walked out of the warehouse. This was the longest night of his life, including the night he got kidnapped. "As far as you're concerned, nothing. Go home." He spat back and started walking away. "Hold on. I think I'm owed some answers at this point," Katsuki countered, following after him. "You almost ruined this entire operation. I don't owe you jack. It's dangerous out here. You're going to get yourself kidnapped again. Go home." He swung around, walking backwards so he could more effectively glare at the other boy. "And you'd know all about that, wouldn't you? How long have you lived in this hellhole?" Izuku's heart froze for a second. His step faltered, and he turned around before he could give anything away with his expression. How did Katsuki know that he had lived here? There's no way he could have figured that out, not unless he knew the whole time, which Izuku doubted. "What are you talking about?" he answered in an attempt to probe for more information. "When did you and Auntie move?" Okay, he definitely had no idea what he was talking about. However, that didn't mean he knew nothing. Izuku had to figure out what Katsuki thought he knew if he was going to get out of this with his plan intact. 4 years ago, he answered truthfully. "Did that damn deadbeat have something to do with it? Why the hell would you move to the ghetto?" "Yes, he had something to do with it. Is this 20 questions? Why do you even care?" "Why do I care? You were yapping with our frickin' kidnappers, Deku." "I knew him from around town, and I saved our asses. Now, why don't you start practicing keeping your mouth shut like I told you to?" He shot back before he could think better of it. Jeez, maybe being back in Uptown wasn't good for him. He was being a little too Ivy right now. "Why the hell should I?" Izuku's stomach sank. There was no reason for Katsuki to listen to him. He had nothing to hold over his head other than potentials and what-ifs. People will die if you don't. You don't know that, and what happens if you croak because I didn't say anything, huh? You do realize what you're doing is crazy, right? This is freaking crazy. You're freaking crazy. Katsuki walked ahead of him and stared him down, stopping Izuku in his tracks. Why do you even care? You've been waiting for me to keel over for a decade. Keep your mouth shut and maybe I'll end up doing you a favor. He watched the expression on Katsuki's face fall, so he pivoted the conversation before either of them could open that can of worms. How did you even know I was coming here? There's no way you heard me from the other side of the room. Katsuki regarded him carefully before responding. Give me one straight answer and I'll tell you, he bartered. Izuku felt his eye twitch. He didn't want to tell him a damn thing, but he needed to know how he knew so that he could get a clear picture of what all Katsuki had uncovered. Fine, he bit out reluctantly and resumed his walk. What the hell happened to you guys? Why are you in Uptown now? That was 2 questions. I was clarifying, don't be a smartass. He clenched his jaw, took a deep breath, and mentally asked whatever gods that may or may not exist what he had done to have been forced to have something adjacent to a heart-to-heart with Bakugo Katsuki. Dad died, and Mom lost it. Couldn't afford to live there anymore, he answered tactfully. If he could get through an interrogation with Suka, he could get through one question with Kotsky. That's what you call a straight answer? Kotsky growled in response. It's the answer you're getting. Specify the parameters next time. Now tell me how you knew about this. Izuku could see the vein bulging on Kotsky's forehead and his jaw muscles flexing. He wasn't sure if it was because he was in his element here in Uptown or if that joint kidnapping was good for the team morale, but for the first time in a long time, Izuku found that he wasn't scared of Kotsky's clear display of anger. Read your lips, Kotsky grumbled under his breath. You read my lips? He repeated, slightly dumbfounded that something like that had crossed under his radar. Yes, damn it. My quirk is frickin' explosions. My hearing isn't exactly stellar, he barked back, clearly embarrassed. Izuku let out a sigh of relief. Kotsky didn't know anything more about what was happening here then. That was good. He could work with that. That meant the only thing Kotsky had over him was this meeting. He didn't know anything about Ivy. If word got out about Ivy, then Izuku wouldn't be the only one getting screwed over. That being said, he still couldn't let him blab about this. Expulsion wasn't really a threat anymore, not with how much of a PR nightmare that would be. So what leverage did he still have to throw back at him to keep his mouth shut? What do you mean Auntie lost it? Are you guys, okay? Kotsky's uncharacteristically sheepish tone snapped his attention back. Something had changed in Kotsky. If Izuku didn't have 12 years' worth of evidence to the contrary, he would have thought he actually gave a shit. Maybe he did. Maybe that joint kidnapping really was good for team morale. For some reason, the thought made him angry, so he pushed it down and kept walking. They continued on in silence for a while, and the thought kept gnawing at him. What had changed? Was it because he had a quirk now? Was that why Kotsky gave a crap? Was it just because he was a real person now, not just a null? You can't ignore me forever, Deku. Answer my question. Izuku stopped walking and turned around abruptly enough that Kotsky almost ran into him. Fine. Same deal. I'll answer your question if you answer mine, all right? Kotsky narrowed his eyes but nodded his assent. Why do you care? And don't give me some bullshit answer, because if you do, that's what you're getting back. They both just stood there, staring at each other for an uncomfortably long moment. When he got tired of waiting for Kotsky to grow a pair and answer the damn question, he scoffed and turned around. Wait, just give me a damn minute. Izuku whirled around and cut him off. I don't have all night. Because he was right, Kotsky all but shouted. What? He asked, still irritated. Frickin' Hobo Sensei was right, and so were you. You care about everyone, even if they don't deserve it. You went after me, even though And I think you were right. I can't be a hero like this, Kotsky admitted, his voice getting quieter with each word until it was barely audible at all. Izuku's hands hardened into fists, and if he clenched his teeth any tighter, he would end up cracking a tooth. Bakugo was finally taking some form of accountability, even if he said 1,000 things but the words, I'm sorry. This was a good thing. So why did that make him so angry? What's your damn question? He forced the words out coldly, ignoring everything the other boy had just said. Are you guys okay? Izuku couldn't help the bitter laugh from escaping his mouth if he tried. Oh, fine, no, he'd answered. The hell is that supposed to mean? It means I don't freaking know. She's gone. She just up and freaking left. Didn't even tell me why. What do you mean she left? Didn't you say your dad was dead? Yes, truly impressive information retention skills. Now I'd like to go home if it's all the same to you. No, you didn't answer my frickin' question, a-hole. Pretty sure I did. No, you didn't. I asked about both of you. Where are you even staying? None of your frickin' business. I'm fine. I've got a foster family, I guess. One that's going to notice I'm gone soon, so no more questions, all right? Just forget this happened. This is a shit idea, and you know it. Why the hell wouldn't you just tell the teachers? You're going to get yourself killed. I can't just let you. Oh, what in the Christmas magic frickin' bullshit? Did your heart grow 3 sizes? Did you make some friends who don't just let you treat them like pets and realize everyone else are real people too? Do us both a favor and go back to not giving a shit. His anger snapped, and he got an awful idea. You tell anyone about this, and I'll let all your friends know what you're really like. I'm sure they'd think it's real cool how I've got your handprint burned into my frickin' shoulder, wouldn't they? Better yet, how about I tell everyone? The news already thought you were going to turn villain. What kind of stories do you think they'll run when they realize you were half the reason Aldera got shut down? I can see the headlines now. Shoe-in hero Bakugo Katsuki spent formative years abusing defenseless children. I'm sure that'll shoot up your ranking. That's some real #1 hero shit, right? Bakugo didn't have anything else to say to that. He just stood there frozen, but Izuku didn't care. He turned around and kept walking, even when Bakugo's footsteps didn't follow after. Take the J line to Block 30 and walk back from there. It's safer, he dismissed, jumping up onto a dumpster and scaling up the side of a fire escape so he could take the rooftops back home. He laser focused on his surroundings and didn't let his thoughts linger on the conversation he had just had. The buildings passed by beneath him, and he lost track of time completely. It was nearly 3 a.m. by the time he slipped back through his window. But at least he was certain he wasn't followed. He had half expected Eraser to be sitting at his desk chair with the lights off like some sort of movie cliche, but he wasn't. He'd left his new phone and the note explaining where he was and what he was doing on his desk in case he didn't come back. And they were both exactly where he'd left them. The string he had loosely taped to the top of the door and the frame was still attached at both ends, too. No one had noticed his absence, and everything could proceed according to plan. He sat down on his bed and rested his face in his hands. He'd need to make sure his old Ivy burner was charged and buy some more minutes for it too, but he could do that tomorrow. Right now, he needed to sleep rather desperately. End of chapter.